usually I make my presentation in French, so you can give me just 2 more minutes. So thank you for having me here. I'm Moussa Savadogo, retired from AUDA-NEPAD and based in Burkina Faso. So I've been asked to just give a brief on the IVM program of AUDA-NEPAD based on genetically based vector control. The subject itself is provoking. When we are talking about biotechnology, genetic-based solution, it's already provoking. Yesterday we talked about the youth and the ability, the potential to transform Africa and take it to the Africa we want. Of course, the Africa we want is an Africa free up from malaria and other vector-borne diseases. Vector-borne disease is very, 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 very important. Every year, it's almost 700 people that are killed by those diseases transmitted by mosquitoes and other vectors. And in last year alone, malaria killed something like 250,000 people, of which 95% were in Africa, and 78 were children under 5. Of course, you agree with me that those figures are not acceptable. With all the science we have today, this is not acceptable at all. Why it is like this? It is like this because mosquito always develop some ways of, circumventing the solution that we have. So the vector control tools that we have today, mosquito is developing resistance to that. The malaria parasite is also developing resistance to the drug that we are using. So this is why African Union and WHO have called for innovation. And genetically based vector control is one of the solutions. Of course, it could be controversial. It could raise several issues, concerns, but it is a solution that we can try. So, yes. So it's dengue also is coming. Dengue also is coming and is becoming a very important threat for our lives. My country, Burkina Faso, has recorded the highest level of dengue last year, and it was very sad to see people dying with all those tools. So we really need new tools. And, oh my goodness. So genetically based solution is about working on the mosquito itself. To make it, there is 2 options. Whether the mosquito is not able to transmit the malaria parasite or the other disease parasite, or you reduce the mosquito population to a level where the transmission is not significant. There is two options. Doing so, there is concerns about safety. And the safety has been the concern, has been the issue, has been the focus of several international organizations, including the United Convention on Biological Diversity, the WHO, even the European Union Food Safety Agency. So all those international organizations have come up with rules, have come up with instruments to assess the risk of genetically based vector control solutions. In Africa, with the support of funders from Bill and Melinda Gates primarily, AUDA-NEPAD has embarked on building capacity in Africa for the risk assessment mainly. So AUDA-NEPAD is focusing on the regulatory capacity building, not the science per se. Our scientists is working with some laboratory like in Italy, and some consortium like Target Malaria, but AUDA-NEPAD is more focusing on the safety issues, building the capacity for the regulations. And I can testify that with the support that AUDA-NEPAD has been giving, countries like Burkina Faso, Mali, Uganda, Djibouti, Comoros, Sao Tome and Principe are making very good progress in this area that is very high scientific. But today we have young scientists that are able to transform the mosquito in Burkina Faso, in Mali, in Uganda. So this is really a breakthrough progress, and despite the controversy that we can have around genetically based vector control, we think that the partnership with European Union can also be interested, can also help the other countries in Africa who want to embark in this program. So in a nutshell, this is what I have to say. I only have 7 minutes, and I would like to thank the colleagues from AUDA-NEPAD for inviting me here. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'll be presenting a bit on a difficult topic and continuing from what we were presenting yesterday. I'm Eric Chakauya. Since we were talking opportunities, I presented yesterday that for us to think outside of the box, we have to come out of the box. That's where I concluded, and I'm continuing taking us out of the box today. So, and this is the topic, and there's things that we are familiar with in the continent. And I mentioned we have very good plants, we have very good animals, and we use herbal medicine. So if you forget everything that I'm going to say, I'm encouraging us that as part of the AU-EU innovation agenda, that we modernize African traditional medicine so that it goes into mainstream healthcare. If we manage to do that, we would have saved a lot of people. And I'll give a video at the end, but we can talk about a lot of reasons why it has been so difficult to bring in traditional medicine. And some of them you know, and I can also tell you that we are very religious people, and a lot of us are here because of this medicine. Some of you, including me, chances are we might not know, but actually by the wisdom of those that have come before us, we got treated, because in as much as we want the modern systems of healthcare, not everyone has access to that. Of course, we have a lot of cultural beliefs, some of them that are hindering us from progressing, some of them are kind of agitating, like my friend said yesterday. You have a lot of scientific, technical challenges. We actually have a lot of knowledge on how to work on medicines. We're training pharmacy students. I heard about pharmacovigilance. All these tools are available to us for us to use. But why are we not using them on the medicine that we already have? The infrastructure is very limited. That's why we are not getting any of this modernized. And of course, there is issues to do with the environment and the discord in terms of the policies. For example, in Eswatini, we're working with the law says you can't harvest plants for you to sell, although you get a few plants that are being sold on the market informally. So how do we get plants In fact, as we know that more than 70% of the current medicines from plants, how can we get plants to help us to treat some of these diseases, especially the NCDs that Dr. Nyirenda talked about. So, in the framework, and I will speak a bit about what we have done from the AUDA-NEPAD SunBio program. So this is the framework that we have used. And it's documented, the WHO, the European Union has got this on how to do herbal medicines. But for some reason, there is, in most countries, and I can tell you for Zimbabwe, Eswatini, even South Africa, if you go in the pharmacy now, only 2% is local products, herbal products. The question is why? We have started to play around. The SunBio is anchored at the CSIR. We have fantastic facilities. So for a very long time, we started working on a number of projects. There's one supported by the South African government or African Ginger. It's being used for different aspects for managing this. And I can tell you also that 2010, we had the SARS scare, and we were told we were going to be vaccinated, all of us. Only pregnant women and children were vaccinated. All of us were just waiting. The vaccines never came. COVID came, same problem. We had to wait and wait and wait, and there was a lot of stories why the vaccines were not coming. But what I realized is definitely Africa has to develop its own, it has to manufacture its own products. Otherwise, even the TB and the diabetes medication that some of us are taking at my age, it's kind of normal to take, for diabetes. But that big tablet that's annoying is being made not here. Those that take that medicine, they know what we're talking about. And Professor Mumba is here. Some of the work that we did with Zambia on HIV. And I'm told the funding on HIV is getting lower and lower. Dr. Nyirenda will help me. So what are we going to do? So we need to come up with solutions. This is a product we worked on, and SunBio with the CSIR with the Zambian government to move from just herbs and some of these big capsules to capsules that are very good, and coming up with all the signs that we could think about and characterizing what was in there and all that. All the things that scientists like to do and play, and trying to get all the things that are needed for regulatory purposes. And this product went for clinical trials, phase 1 proof, and then what happened? We ran out of money because no one wants to fund this kind of research. Am I right? So I'm quite happy Dr. Nyirenda is here. EDC, TP, we need to go for traditional medicine. Part of it is because we are also Africans. This is also, we are talking AU and EU. This is funded by the European Union, a number of institutions, University of Eswatini, University of Zimbabwe, Harare Institute of Technology, supported technically by the CSIR. We're trying basically to walk all the way to a pharmaceutical product manufactured in a drug company, like any other. Luckily in Zimbabwe, because this medicine is already being used in humans, why should we go for clinical trials when we have already tested it again and again and again and through some kind of reverse pharmacology? So what did we do? We went into the community and see what are the products that people are using that need to be modernized so that we can apply our science. We talked about the IP because this is knowledge that is sitting between our ears. So we had to go and sit in Eswatini. These are the knowledge holders. And we assume traditional healers didn't go to school, right? These have PhDs in pharmacy. Then we had to go through all the processes in terms of the science, extract all the products, manufacture, until we came up with products. We took the process, took it into a drug manufacturing company that has products on the market, and manufactured it and produced all the documentation that's needed for the regulator, sitting with the MCAS in Zimbabwe, which is the regulator, and they are just finalizing on looking at, does it meet the regulatory requirement? Because it's about the patient, and that's what Prof said. So we need to make sure the quality is right. It works, and also it's safe. That's the most important. These are the products, branded so well also. It's also important. On the left are 2 Zimbabwean products. On the right, it's Eswatini. Let me just go to my second last slide. So we need to collaborate, and I think that's what the EU Innovation Agenda is about. We need academia, we need private sector, we need the community in there, we need research technology organizations. Most of our universities in Africa are teaching universities. You need RTOs. We have those institutes that can scale up technologies. We also need the government. And my conclusion is, the most difficult part is we are very religious people, but we have a lot of non-believers in this technology. So we need to keep on preaching. So we need to believe on technologies that can help people in the community. 70 to 80% of us use this. So we need a neighborhood demonstration effect. Someone has to do it, then we learn from each other. That's how we do it in Africa. Then everyone needs to know the state is very important. Partnerships, we talked about it, especially for manufacturing. We don't have the infrastructure, but there's definitely someone who can make capsules and syrups, who can analyze these things. Then, of course, intellectual property management is very important. And someone said Africa is full of intellectual property, but it doesn't have the rights. We like to publish, we don't like to protect the rights and make money out of it. I don't know what's wrong with us, but we need to invest in multidisciplinary work, and then regulation. And let me conclude with this. For some reason, we put the regulator in front of the scientist. The policeman first, and then if the science doesn't come, we don't have much innovations, but we have more regulators. We need to balance and then get the right business model. This is why it's so difficult for us, because we actually expect someone to develop the business models for herbal medicines in Africa. I don't think that will work. So my call to action is, let's just partner together. This is what we have, and we need to develop it. And we are doing it. We just want people to join us as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Chakaoya. And I think that last presentation captures one of the essential components that was explored right at the beginning when we were conceptualizing the innovation agenda. And that notion was the notion of innovation ecosystems. And I think throughout this morning, with particularly the panel that we've had for this session, we've seen the various aspects of the innovation ecosystem at play within the public health space. I don't want to take any more time. I think we've made up just a little bit for time, so we do have space for just maybe 3 questions. So I would like to open this up for questions before we conclude. Any questions? Over there, sir. And then we'll proceed that side. You can take the floor.
Okay, thank you very much for the presentations. My name is Joseph. Just want to point this out. So looking at the spend on healthcare in Africa, it's less than 50% of national budgets, maybe around 10%. So, I mean, you've made interesting points Thank you. You made interesting points around IP, healthcare, manufacturing, healthcare, innovation, manufacturing of healthcare products or medicines and the likes. Now, the question is, how do we bring government's attention to this? Because currently, if you engage any government official, their focus is on food security, and other social issues based on the current climate or current inflation pressures on the continent. So how do we bring this to the table or to various African leaders, especially with what the Global Gateway is trying to do on the continent? So yeah, that's the question.
Okay, the other question over there.
Thank you very much. Good morning. My question is to the last speaker. In terms of indigenous knowledge, we know that Africa has a very strong, knowledge in terms of indigenous knowledge when it comes to healthcare. I remember when I was growing up, if I have malaria, for instance, my mom would just get some leaves and boil them and put me in those, like steam me in those leaves, and after a few minutes, I'm fine. But it's not something that has been translated to, something global. And you did mention that, innovators and researchers from Africa, we send our work, we tend to publish instead of innovating, which is a big challenge because we give all our copyrights and all our ideas, to the publishing houses who are mostly based in Europe. And we give ourselves accolades that we've published, this number of publication. But then in terms of the richness of our indigenous knowledge, how do we actually harness that? Because this thing has been there for generations. How do we get there in terms of Africa, in terms of the global community accepting what Africa has to offer? Because there's a lot that Africa has to offer, especially in terms of healthcare, as you rightly mentioned. But how do we get that buy-in from the global community? Instead of, the other colleague mentioned that I think government would rather spend a lot of money to bring in drugs from Europe instead of developing our own local indigenous knowledge. So how do you see, how do we get there? I know it's a difficult question, but I just want to know if you have any solutions to proffer in that regard. Thank you.
Thank you for the two questions. I think to a certain extent they're interrelated. One of them was posed to you, Dr. Chaka-Oya, so maybe I can give you the first opportunity to answer the two questions, and then maybe we can hand over to other members of the panel as well.
So it's about getting people to believe. That's how I get the question. I think I'll start with the last one. I think we shouldn't worry that much about the globe accepting what we have. We should start by developing what we have so that it gets integrated into the modern health system. And I know at some point in Botswana there was a project where they were looking at referral system between the traditional healers and they call them the doctors that practice, the Western medicine and all that. It was a very interesting project because now you're starting to integrate. Some countries have done that. I think Mozambique was working on it, Madagascar, and a few. So, but we need to make sure it's safe, the right quality, and it's efficacious. That's important. The problem is most of our stuff as of now, it's not substantiated by the science, but also even if the WHO has put the workflow on what we should do, we have not tested it. I have no idea why. And most of our systems, including our regulatory system, we're talking AMA here, we're talking Sasbona, traditional medicine is not there. And I'm wondering why. So we need to start believing ourselves, then the globe will start believing us. So that's where I would start. But then apply our science and provide the evidence. Obviously, this is my personal belief. We have a lot of NCDs and all that. In fact, cancers are going up in most of these countries. And if we think we're going to manage all these cancers using platforms based on medicine from somewhere else, either we are crazy or we just need some traditional medicine to treat us because something is wrong with us. We need to start from our own medicine. So the science, we need to apply innovation to modernize our medicine so that they fit. Because as of now, it's very difficult because there are other rituals that are in there, just like the normal white lab coat doctors have rituals. Traditional medicine has got rituals, but we need to integrate and make sure we separate the medicine from the practice of it. So that's what I would think. Then, in terms of the research, we did the health research and innovation strategy for Africa. I think Seke was there, remembers. We were surprised the Africa health strategy didn't have research at all. And then when we developed it, there was so much resistance. Why do you need it when you already have other big ones? But guess what? We need also to find a way of doing these things. So we need to have strategies for research, not just service delivery, but innovation and research in health, and bring others that are not in mainstream. Plant scientists like me, I'm not in health, but eventually you realize science is science, we come together, we collaborate, it will work. Thank you.